when I was applying for jobs and all, my sole purpose was like applying through LinkedIn only. So I used to get up in the morning, apply for 4 to 5 job roles which I would find interesting, and then wait for the callbacks throughout the day. So that was my approach. Like, just apply for the roles which you seem like you would be a good fit for, and then just hope that you would get the call back. So I ended up getting a hike of roughly 155%
That's
over
that's
previous.
a remarkable one, yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Mansa Nagraj, welcoming you to Trendy Tech, where you get to learn how to deal with data, precisely big data, in and out. In today's podcast, we would be in conversation with Harsh, an outstanding performer and a passionate big data expert. From being rejected by companies like Accenture and not getting interview calls from EY and MasterCard, to holding 8 offers and now successfully working as a senior data engineer in PAYTM with an amazing package hike. So, this is the story of Harsh. He will be sharing his journey into the data engineering field with us today, which is definitely not a cakewalk. So, let's hear it out from Harsh on how he strategized and planned his path towards a successful career in data engineering. He will also be sharing a lot of useful tips for all of you audience out there that can help you in preparing a useful and like a planned approach, or you can plan yourself to get a similar success. So Harsh, firstly, a very warm welcome and congratulations on that remarkable success from the whole team of Trendy Tech here and from Sumit Sir as well. So we're really happy and really proud of whatever the hard work and dedication that you've put into land this amazing job here. So, just to set the context right, Harsh has taken up the Big Data Masters program by Sumit Sir here. And so, Harsh, I would really appreciate if you could introduce yourself to the audience and walk them through your profile, as in your educational qualification and work experience as well. Over to you, Harsh. Yeah.
Sure, sure. First of all, thank you, Mansa, for having me onto this wonderful podcast. And yeah, so coming back on my background and all, so I completed my computers engineering in 2018. Okay, and from there I started working with a small firm called QLogic Technologies in Pune. Okay, recently I started as a full stack developer, majorly working with Python and JavaScript. But I always had like a bit of what you can say curiosity regarding big data technologies right from the college days. So when I joined QLogic, I was still exploring the big data technologies in my free time, spare time, and then like I used to also perform some smaller use cases and all. Just to make sure like I don't lose my touch from big data. After some time, I ended up being in a project where like it was a data analytics tool like platform for healthcare domain, and but I was part of the full stack side of things, not the data analytics or data engineering side of things. But after some time, like around 5 or 6 months or so, the team was downsized from 7 members to two. So my colleague and I then had a discussion, and we decided that my colleague would take on full stack engineering as his responsibility, and the data engineering would be taken care by me. So that's how I like started into moved into data engineering as part of my portfolio. In there, my major responsibilities included creating data models, all the managing the data pipelines, creating new ETL processes, and all that. So after some time, like I still felt that I had more knowledge to gain within the field. So that's when I joined Trendy Tech's course, I guess around October last year or so. And like during the course, I gained very deep insights within all the technologies which are being used in like big data ecosystem, be it Hadoop, Hive, more information related to Spark, Airflow, all of those technologies. And like that improved my overall knowledge, overall skills in big data. And then later on, when I was looking for a job opportunity, I applied for PAYTM via LinkedIn, and then I managed to get an offer from them.
Okay. That's quite a lot of, it's an interesting journey that you have had with the data engineering. So being
Yeah.
a computer science graduate, right, like in hardcore software engineer, You did
Yeah.
mention that what actually drove you towards data engineering. So
Mm-hmm.
when there are fields like full stack development and cybersecurity, which are like hardcore software engineers
Mm-hmm.
roles, uh,
Mm-hmm.
was there any driving force that kind of led you towards data specifically? You did mention that you were part of, like the data engineering
Mm-hmm.
field. I mean, like the project part of it. Was there anything specific that kind of, like made you to get that particular role as compared to your colleague who was like into full stack development, right? So what made you
Yeah.
to choose that?
Right from the college, I was majorly interested with the machine learning and all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I used to watch a lot of sci-fi movies, like Iron Man and all. So I always had a thing for machine learning and all. So when I joined my engineering degree, like college, so I got into research that how would I end up into the machine learning field and all. So after my research, I found out that okay, big data is the stepping stone. Like all machine learning, like how would you train your machine to do a particular task, right? You would use data, you would use historic data, you would train your model, and then you would end up like basically training your machine, basically, right? So the big data was like a stepping stone into the world of machine learning. So I started learning big data. I would say like I was lucky enough that I started learning big data and it spiked my interest basically more than the machine learning part itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I like tilted more towards big data than
Okay.
machine learning
So right
itself.
from your college days, you were pretty much
Yeah,
interested in, like all of the machine learning and data
yeah,
specifically, right? Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's really nice. Well, you said that you did join the big data course by Sumit Sir.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
how exactly probably did it help you in understanding the concepts? You did have a knowledge of, like dealing with data prior to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
was the difference that you kind of like found after finishing the course, and how did it like probably help you in enhancing
Mm-hmm.
the skill set?
Before joining the course, I was, like I said, I was part of, like my job profile was majorly related to data modeling and managing the data pipelines and all. So whenever there used to come up some issue or some problem with the data pipeline or some bug, I used to have a lot of struggle of like figuring out what exactly went wrong or what is the issue with the system and how would we rectify it and all. So even though I had a sound understanding like how Spark works and all, but still getting into a deeper insight was really a challenge for me. So that's where I learned about this course by Sumit Sir, the Trendy Tech course, and uh, I took a few initial classes, and I realized that this course has covers a lot of things which are in depth and which would help me eventually get more knowledge and more comfortable with the technologies. So
Mhm.
that's why I like joined it full time and like, I was able to get like enhance my skills and all.
Perfect. Yeah, that was nice. So you found the course really helpful over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, moving on, I just have this really curious question here from the audience
Hmm.
side as well. You have this really cool job at PAYTM, right? And that is kind
Yeah.
of like a aspiring job who would be like looking forward for in the data engineering field, like all of those
Hmm.
big data aspirants. They really dream of that particular role which you have right now.
Hmm.
How
Hmm.
did you kind of like land up here? I did see that initially you kind of faced a few challenges. How did you end up in PAYTM, and was it a targeted approach that you had taken specifically focusing on the top-notch companies, or was it like just a surprise for you that you were, like normally applying to the companies and you kind of like got this opportunity?
It was not like a targeted approach for specifically for Paytm, I would say. Like I always had a plan to land up in big tech companies like the Fangs or uh, like some Indian companies like Flipkart, Cred, Paytm, all of those. Okay, but I didn't have like a targeted approach towards any specific company. So I applied for Paytm via LinkedIn when I was on my notice period for my from previous job, and like it was just like you would say shot in the dark kind of thing. Like because I earlier applied for Flipkart, Myntra, and Cred, all the other big tech companies, and like I didn't receive any call back from any one of them. So it was like, let's see what happens. And luckily, I got a call back from Paytm, uh, and like I uh, just being confident in my skills, I went through the interview rounds and all, and I was like able to crack the interviews. But to be honest, like from right from the final call with the HR that I have been selected and I would be getting an offer letter, until the point that I received the actual offer letter, I was not even sure. Like I was surprised myself that I even managed to crack Paytm. Like, it was so like dream come true moment for me.
That's definitely right. Yeah. So, well, you have given multiple interviews, as I have heard, right? So, was there
Yeah, yeah.
any like difference in the way of approach, like for the service-based companies and the product-based companies? Was there any difference in the pattern in the interviews that they conducted that you noticed?
One pattern which I specifically noted, which was different, was like the service-based companies were more focused towards what you actually have worked on, and how that knowledge would be translated into their projects. Like, how would you slot in into existing projects or anything? Whereas product-based companies were more geared towards like what uh, like how efficient your solution is more towards like I would say like they were more focused towards the data structure algorithm and optimization of the solution, because most of the product based companies which I interviewed, they were already working on a scale, larger scale, whereas service based companies, those were majorly working with a smaller scale of data, so they were not focusing more towards uh, like DSA or optimization side of things. They were more focused like if you can do it, and product-based companies were more focused towards like how would you do it more optimally. So that was the major difference which I noticed.
The next question that I have for you is how easy was it to crack Paytm? I mean, like after having seen a lot of challenges in the previous interviews, did you kind of change your approach or a strategy after learning from your experiences that you gained from the previous interviews? And was there any plan for you, like as to like, did you improvise on your resume, or did you have some planned approach to go through LinkedIn? How did you actually end up getting the interview calls post that?
Like I mentioned earlier, there was no like separate approach built specifically for Paytm or anything. It was just like I was treating it just like any other interview like I would do. So I was pretty sure that majorly the questions would be around like what I have done or what technologies I have used, and how would it translate into their solutions. Okay, that was my major focus. And uh, apart from that, I generally used to have retrospectives from my previous interviews as well. So, like you mentioned, I've given several interviews. So, whenever I used to complete an interview process for one company, I used to do a retrospective, like what went right, what went wrong, or like where I might have maybe missed out on the opportunity or anything. So I gained some insights from there as well, like where I can improve or where I can improve my answer, or what part I'm lacking in knowledge, and how can I improve that and all. So that was also helpful. Apart from that, when I was applying for jobs and all, my sole purpose was like applying through LinkedIn only. So I used to get up in the morning, apply for 4 to 5 job roles which I would find interesting, and then wait for the callbacks throughout the day. So that was my approach. Like just apply for the roles which you seem like you would be a good fit for, and then just hope that you would get a call back. So that's where I guess I got ended up getting a call from Paytm as well.
Okay.
That I thought that I might be a good fit for them, and yeah.
So basically, you would have gone through the Naukri and as well as several other platforms as well, wherein LinkedIn kind of like helped you a lot over there, right?
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. So my experiences with Naukri or Monster Jobs or any other job portal apart from LinkedIn are really not that good. Like there might be different experiences for different people. I'm not sure about them, but for me, it was generally more towards like when I even though I have mentioned that I want to switch as a data engineer, the profiles which I was getting were more geared towards Java developer or an API developer or any other role, but the big data. So I majorly focused more towards LinkedIn only.
Well, with that, I have the next question, important one here. So, what
Yeah.
is the generic structure of the interview process,
Mhm.
especially in the product-based companies or even in the service-based companies? What are the different rounds that you came across, and which rounds do you feel kind of like were tricky? And you could also let me know on the technologies that they concentrated on specifically, the skill set that
Mhm.
they were looking forward for, especially for a data engineer. Yeah.
As far as generic structure is considered for the interview process, like most of the organizations, they follow like 3 or 4 rounds of interview. Majorly there are 3 rounds with the either your team members, managers and all, and if some companies have like a online assessment, then that would be a fourth round. Like the first round would be online assessment, then you would have like couple of rounds with your future team members, or any senior engineers in the organization, and the final round would be with your hiring manager. So those were the rounds. The rounds with senior engineer, major focus was around like uh, the language of your choice, be it Python or Scala, whatever you have used. There might be a couple of Spark-based questions for you regarding that. Also, if you mentioned that you know SQL or any other technologies, so they would ask a question based on that. So I mentioned like I have expertise in SQL and AWS-based questions. So they used to ask me question around that, like write a SQL query for say some scenario, or if I have some solution to be built in AWS architecture, like how would you do that,
Mhm.
something like that. And the hiring manager round would majorly be around like how would you create a particular architecture, or how would you approach a particular scenario, or like if say I have done some certain project in my previous experience. So if I had to change one thing about it, how would I approach it and how would I change it, or what would be my approach. So uh, for instance, I distinctly remember in one of the interviews, the hiring manager asked me to plot out the high level design for Netflix, like how would the movie streaming work, or how would user recommendations would be triggered, how would you handle large volume of users and all that. These are the sort of questions like which generally are being asked throughout the interview process. For PAYTM as well, it was more towards on the same lines as well.
Yeah, that was really insightful, I would say, the complete process, the interview process. You just gave a gist on that. So, another very curious question that all of our audience would be interested in as well is
Mhm.
the height, the percentage height that you have received, and was
Yeah.
there any particular negotiation strategy that you followed since you were holding quite a lot of offers in hand at that point in time, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if you could help them out with how exactly did you negotiate on your CTC and all of that?
So negotiation is something which I was not really good at beginning, starting from my like childhood, you would say, like not even negotiating prices when I used to go to market or anything. But here, while getting offers and all, I like would read about like tips and tricks while negotiating offers and all. So one thing I would highly recommend is just while applying for a role, or while at any phase, if you feel that okay, you are confident of getting an offer from that company, just check the amount, uh, like via various platforms like Glassdoor or LinkedIn or anything, wherever you might be able to get some insight. Just get an insight on the salary range, like what exactly are they offering.
Hmm.
Okay. And based on that, as well as what you are holding, you might come up with some amount. So I generally used to do is like, if say uh, just in case of Paytm only, if the say salary range is from X to Y LPA, okay. So what I generally used to do is, and I might be having suppose say A offer, like P as an offer right now in hand. So what I used to do is I used to generally quote, like whenever the HR used to ask like what are your expectations and all, I used to quote like I am expecting somewhere around like Y plus 15% or Y plus 10%, something like that amount.
Hmm.
So he used to say like, okay, like we have this range, so if we can make that work or anything. So I used to come up with a middle ground where he would like the HR would also be happy for like releasing an offer for that amount,
Mhm.
and I would be uh, happier that okay, I ended up getting this much amount than expected. So
Okay.
that was my negotiation strategy basically. Like I used to always quote like 10 or 15% higher amount
Mhm.
than what was the salary range offered, and then coming up to a middle ground where HR would also be happy and I would be also happy with the amount I'm getting.
Yeah, that's a really good approach that you followed. And
Yeah.
eventually, what was the hike that you bagged finally?
So I ended up getting a hike of roughly 155%
Oh, that's
over
that's
previous.
a remarkable one. Yeah, yeah, true. We were talking about this the tricky situation where you kind of like any challenging questions that you would have faced in the interviews,
Mhm.
and how did you handle those?
So I did face few challenges while interviewing for the organization. So uh, most of it would be related to some writing some piece of code or like building up an approach or coming up with a solution to the problem. So generally, what I used to do was like I used to think about the problem or the situation for like 5 to 10 minutes, and after that, like I used to ask the interviewer itself, like just thinking out loud, "Okay, this is what I am thinking. So what is your take on it?" So like for me, interviews are always being like a two-way communication. So generally, the interviewers would be like kind enough to point out to a right direction, like okay, I think that this would be a right approach, or like why do you think this would be right approach, and is there any way if we can build up. So they used to give out some hints or some guidance related to like how would we approach it or how would we build up the solution and all. So, like that, I distinctly remember one such scenario with Paytm as well. So I was given a code to write, and I was not able to come up with a solution, like an optimal solution. I was stuck there for like 5 or 10 minutes. So I asked my interviewer like, okay, this is what I am thinking. So he like counter questioned it, like, why do you think like it would work, and like what if we do it this way, will it work? And like that, like his handholding or guidance that gives us a sort of boost in confidence, like okay, what we are thinking is right, or like we can think of another solution or something like that. So that really helps in interviews. So I would say like just don't be nervous or don't be shy in asking out the interviewer, like just have a discussion with him, like this is what I am thinking, and like is it the right approach, or like is there any other way? In most of the scenarios, like I said, the interviewers are kind enough to just give out direction.
Right. So you have to just keep it more interactive so that you can, get to know the
Yeah.
solution part of it. Like at least the way, if in case you're going wrong somewhere, you get a hint that,
Yeah.
like this is the approach for it, and you can probably modify it accordingly.
Yeah.
Right.
Funny enough, I was rejected in one of the companies where in the rejection email, it was clearly mentioned that I was not interactive enough for them
Okay.
to continue with the further interview process. So, like,
Mm.
some companies do focus on that part as well.
So these feedbacks from the companies actually help you out, right? From the interviews, whatever you attend,
Yeah,
at
yeah.
least from the previous
Yeah,
ones.
whatever feedback you receive from the company, that is really helpful in improving our skill set or improving our confidence or anything. But like I said, if you can, you should do your own retrospective as well. That also helps a lot improving our confidence, or like uh, you can say building up an answer to a particular question. So sometimes you are not confident enough to build an answer during an interview. You feel nervous, you feel like okay, if I'm going to say this, what will the interviewer think and all. So
Mhm.
getting our own retrospective also helps in that manner, like it reduces all the nervousness. You get more confident in like building up the answer as well.
So I have seen a lot of our learners as well, kind of like sometimes they get demotivated when they are like facing challenges in the first couple of interviews that they attend. So your story actually tells them how exactly you should learn from your experiences, and failing is not at all, like a wrong thing. That's where you learn a lot, and you actually get a lot of insights from it, and you better yourself over time. So your
Yeah.
story is a true example for that, I would say.
A lot of time, like in the initial stages, I used to also get a bit demotivated by the stuff like, okay, why am I getting rejected? All right. But later on, as I started interviewing for more and more organization, I just realized that like it's just a matter of perspective. Like you might end up being rejected, not like because you might not have the skills. You might have the skills, but somewhere the interviewer feels that you might not be the better fit for the role and someone else might. So there is no shame in accepting that okay, I am being rejected from this organization. Maybe at this point of time you might not be a good fit for that role, but that doesn't mean that maybe in future also you might not be a good fit. You might have different experiences in different organizations, and like somewhere down the line, maybe say a year, somewhere around like 6 months or so as well, you might be a good fit for that role and you might consider reapplying for that role, and maybe this time you end up being selected. So there is
Yeah.
no shame in accepting that you were rejected from that role. Like there might be n number of perspectives in the rejection part as well.
I truly agree on that, Harsh. Yeah, definitely. And you have like put it across in a very nice way as to how to actually face those challenges and make yourself feel better, even though you are not fit at that particular point in time. Definitely, you will
Mhm.
make yourself better over time, and then you will be even more better in the future. Yeah.
Mhm.
So moving on,
Yeah.
I would, I mean, like, is it possible for you to probably give us a high-level brief on the technologies that you're working on at present in your current project?
Yeah, yeah.
Probably the just the tech stack part of it, yeah.
Sure, sure. The current project which you are working on, it is more of a what you can say data pipeline. We already have a data warehouse in place, which is more geared towards like MySQL based data warehouse. Okay. Then for processing and all data processing, we use Spark, which is like an industry standard. We use Python as the programming language for Spark, and we have like various databases in place as well as a data store using AWS cloud. So we use various AWS technologies such as S3 or EMR, Lambda functions, all of those, as well as we have various, like I mentioned, we have various data stores like already mentioned MySQL database. Then we have Elasticsearch as well, where we store all the records as documents, and it becomes more easier to query large amount of data over there. Then
Mhm.
mm, apart from that, we use a few unknown technologies such as Hoodie and Apache Flink as well. So for Hoodie, like we use Hoodie to upsert the records on a dynamic. So in big data, like we have like millions of records, right? So in any particular timeline, say suppose I have a record which came at say 12:15 p.m. Okay, but it is an incomplete record, and the other half of the record it came somewhere around like 1 p.m. or so. So now the first half which was already written, so we won't duplicate the record into the data, right? So just want to update that. So that's where Hoodie comes into the picture. It helps that dynamic upsert of like large number of records, and Flink generally use to transmit data from one point to another, and we also use uh, Jenkins and Airflow to orchestrate all these jobs at some point in time. So these are the technologies which we generally use in our projects.
And yeah, that clearly explains like the complete pipeline that you're using in your project as well. Excellent.
Yeah, yeah.
So finally, I would like to ask you one question on like which would be helpful for our audience as well. If you could let us know
Mhm.
your top 5 tips on how to prepare yourself, plan, and strategize yourself to attend interviews and crack those
Mhm.
top tech companies.
Okay, so I would say that I like I previously mentioned, right? Just knowing where you stand, how confident are you in your approaches, or how confident are you with your skills, that would help a long way. So I would say, like, firstly, just focus on your skills. Just have a thorough understanding of what you have done till now, what are your experiences, what could you could have done, like just have a deep understanding of the projects you are working on or what the tech stack you are working on. That too would be the first step, basically just focusing on your skills and experiences. Apart from that, just uh, when you apply for a job, just go through the JD. I have seen many of my friends who just look at the job position open, the title, and they just apply, irrespective of checking like if you would be a great like if you are the like this is the job profile which you are looking for, or would you be a good fit for that role. Irrespective of that, they just apply based on job titles. So I would highly recommend that you check for the job profile first, like if it is matching your skill sets, or if it is matching your goals towards like what you are planning to move into. Then apart from that, I would say like do a bit of research about the companies you are applying to, because that helps in the interview process as well. Because in couple of interviews, I was asked like, do you know like what the company does exactly? And there are some situations like you cannot know it all about all the companies, right? So there are some situations where you are like completely blank, like, oh, I have applied for this role, but I don't know anything about the company. So do your research about the companies. It helps a lot. Uh, Apart from that, I would say like uh, be flexible in your negotiations. Like if you think you deserve this X amount and you have a claim to back it up, then uh, like you can aim for the higher amounts as well. So you should be knowing that like what you deserve, and how much you can expect from a particular role. So those will be my tips, basically.
Excellent, Harsh. It was really nice talking to you. You've given in a lot of information to our audience here. Thanks a lot for
Yeah.
taking time and joining me on this podcast here. It was my pleasure to have you here. And
Yeah, same.
once again, congratulations. And we at Trendy Tech and even Sumit Sir would wish you a lot of success in your future path as well. Yeah. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much. It was nice having talked to you, and I hope this information helps a lot of people.
Definitely, yeah, it does. Yeah, thank you. Haven't you subscribed to our channel yet? Do subscribe to our channel to get more information on big data, and hit on the bell icon for more such updates.